Hi, good morning, Ruth. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Daniela? It's so
Uh,
good to be here with you.
yeah, I'm so happy to do it as well. So we were actually invited by the FIGT board to record this little conversation celebrating three major events that happened recently. The first one is that you got your honorary degree, doctorate from your university. The second one is a global award that FIGT got just recently, just I think a few days after. And the third one that I want to mention here is that for the first time, FIGT conference was in Asia, reaching all these
Right.
parts of the world. So, what can you tell us about these three major events?
Well, I think they're all tied together. I was greatly honored and surprised when I was called by the president of Wheaton College to say that they were going to give me this degree. But I realized at that time that it's because of all that I've learned and the community of FIGT that has fed me and supported me and really engaged with me in trying to develop this whole topic of what it is to be globally mobile. And I really felt that this was an honor for the community and a recognition for the work that the whole community has done. So then, when the very next day, I got the call that FIGT had been receiving the first place award by Global Relocate for the organizations that help families the best in global relocation, I was just out of my mind thrilled. And I felt like that was another verification that after years of trying to make people understand that this is a real topic and it's a real event happening in our world, that is finally being recognized. And then, of course, to move this conference to Asia was just mind boggling. You know, when we started FIGT, it started around my little kitchen table here. As you know, but maybe some listening don't, I was born and raised in Nigeria. I loved my life. I had a good life. I did the usual things that kids do when they repatriate, and I didn't fit in. And so I kind of ignored Africa and tried to fit in. But ultimately, when I was 39, I tried to make some sense of my story because I had this great life, and yet I had places that there were these silent depressions I couldn't understand. So the journaling I did became my first book, which is exploring that other side of my story, the side about the separations and the losses that go along with the wonderful things of this, the whole paradox of this life. And through that, I met Dave Pollock, who had developed the Third Culture Kid profile. And ultimately, I offered to try and help him write this into a book because he didn't have time and I thought it was important. So as I was,
All grateful for that because it's the famous book, the TCK book, Growing Up Among Cultures, that any expat or anybody who actually cross culture in any kind of way is, I think, very much encouraged to read.
thank you. Well, these were the days when we didn't have much universal language, and Dave was a pioneer going around the world trying to help people in international schools understand. So I started to write. We sent it into the publisher. The only publisher that would take it was Intercultural Press because they thought it was kind of an academic topic. And but when we sent it in, and we just had the profile, all the characteristics, the benefits, and the challenges. They wrote back and they said, "Well, you can't just describe what happens; you have to explain why it happens." I thought, well, who knows? But I have a mind that likes whys, and so we spent the next 7 years chatting between us, interviewing people, and finally, I had a manuscript, and I had these friends from different sectors. In other words, they were corporate, they were personal mobility. And so I said, "Would you read this, please, and tell me, does this relate to your kids? Does this relate? Is this worth even trying to publish?" And all of them came back and said that they wish they'd had this when they were raising their kids. So we sat at this kitchen table where I'm working right now, and as we talked about it, we thought of all the people here in Indianapolis that didn't know about this topic. As we dreamed, we kind of laughed and said, "Half conference will travel." But of course, we didn't even start it here. So that was the beginning, really, was trying to see if this topic was wider than each sector. And I think we found out it was. And that was the beginning of FIGT as being a multi-sector community.
And I think this is one of the characteristics that are very also, it's still valid till today, that FIGT is a platform for many sectors, regardless where you're coming from professionally or culturally. There is a place for you there, and there is really an open invitation to hear your voice, as long as you have an interest in this kind of topics and this kind of field, as we are starting to call it right now. So it's still there. The seeds were in your kitchen table, but we can still feel it.
Well, I think, since I'm not such an organized person, I just had this vague idea that if we could mix up the people working with us and the people who are doing it, we could have a conversation, because so many people didn't believe there was anything in this topic yet. And so I think that the minute we started and people started to connect with each other, as they still do, FIGT was born. But by the second year, I knew that it was way bigger than me. And therefore, my friends couldn't help for different reasons by that year. And so at that conference, we said, we have a baby. If anybody wants to adopt her, she's up for adoption. And I guess this year I thought, you know what? She's been a teenager for a little while we tried to get going. But this year she became, I think we graduated her from college too. And I felt like, okay, it's happened. And I want to say to anybody who's listening, if FIGT is a story about anything, it's a story about what can happen when you take one step at a time and try and follow a dream. Somebody told me that advice in 1980 before I even knew about this topic for something else. But that was the step each day. What could we do? And each time. And all the people after me have done that. And all the people that I think, you can see through this group have come and done one step at a time. Daniela, you've met many of the people. Tell me what you've seen from the people that have launched their ideas here.
First of all, it's very true. I think everybody who attended any FIGT conference knows this story that you share. Like this philosophy, when you don't know what to do or how to solve everything, just find the one little thing that you can do and start with that. And I think FIGT, it's very right, became a platform of a lot of dreamers of any kind and sorts. So it's impressive to see how 21 years ago you started it in your kitchen table, and by now we have the conference actually moving from the US through Europe, then now in Asia. We've seen people coming from different directions. We have a lot of academics coming, doing their research and expanding their research through this platform. We have a lot of writers. I remember you saying how many books you had in the first conference?
I think we had 2. We had Letters Never Sent had just come off the press, and one little book by a Foreign Service
and
TCK, and that's all we had.
Yeah, and now we have a whole bookstore, and it's really growing. People are starting making sometimes the first steps, just joining this community, allow themselves to dream and explore. We have today many affiliates, so it's local groups that are meeting not only once a year as we all meet, in the conferences, but, they have their own seminars, always around the same topics, but being, very supportive to each other. We have online affiliates, so we meet also online. We have our Facebook groups, and it's really growing. So did you imagine that it will grow in such
No. Well, first off, I don't know anything about webinars, so I couldn't have imagined a webinar, and I don't even know if they had them 21 years ago. But we would, like I say, we'd laugh, but something in my heart knew that this was really global. But I mean, there was no way in the world 4 little housewives sitting here at my kitchen table were going to hit the globe. And so that's the miracle. And to me, it's the power of the story of FIGT, is if this can happen from the seeds at this little table where I'm sitting right now, and I don't dare get rid of my table now, even though it's about 50 years old, I think, it can happen. And that's why I believe so strongly in trying to encourage other people. The topic is too big for one person. It has never been explored like it needs to be now because it's never happened this way in the world before. And as we watch the world pulling away from each other in so many ways, I really believe we have a critical role to play in trying to help people understand that we can be extremely different in so many ways. But our humanness is shared, the desire for relationship, the desire for understanding, the desire to be creative, the desire that our lives would matter. All of those things we share, and we share it around this topic, but we also share it as fellow humans. And I just have joy. Every time I go, I sit and I have joy, and I think, how in the world did this happen? It's not because of me. I could only dream, but it's watching everybody throw in their piece of the puzzle. And then the puzzle gets bigger and it gets bigger. And then you realize there's more pieces. And it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. And I love it.
And I love it too, and that's the reason that once you enter this wonderful supportive community, it's really hard to take yourself away of it, because I've never seen in my personal professional life any kind of community or conference of this kind that actually mixes together not only the content, that it's very rich, but also the connection, the personal connection. For me, just calling you my friend, and it's not only an honor, it's a joy. But I'm not the only.
I say the same. I say the same. I mean, it's a joy to have you as my friend. I've learned so much from you.
But I think almost every person that ever attended a conference and had the chance to talk with you feels the same, that in that moment you're the best friend for each one of us, and definitely our best supporters. So this is a platform of supporting each other, and this is definitely coming from your spirit and your willingness to be so generous, and just always think that you can be the best cheerleader and help us all grow. So thank you for that, personally, and representing the whole community.
Well, sorry, I have one other little thing at the beginning when I was wondering, if I would write, and then would there be space and all that stuff. And someone said, nobody can do what the other person can do, because even if it's the same topic, it comes through a different personality. It comes through a different experience. And in the end, nothing will be the same, because it only will be bigger, because each person's adding themselves to it and shapes it differently. And so I believe in that. And as I watched it grow, I can only be thankful, because if I'd ever tried to keep it, what would I still be talking about? TCKs or something? But now we're just seeing it applies to the globe. Cross-cultural kids of many different backgrounds, not just expats, to adults.
Our stories are not similar at all, but we share so much.
We do share so much. We don't have one thing in common in the details, but we have everything in common in the sharing.
That's true.
And in the joy and the friendship. So I think that's to me, the great joy is to see that in a world that's looking for diversity and trying to do it by how it looks, we really do have a diversity in the deeper places where we share despite the differences. But because of that, we also have diversity in how we look, what our experiences are, but we also have unity. I guess that's the thing. Maybe if they talk about unity and diversity, to me, when I'm at FIGT, I feel that every moment.
And I share the same feeling. Being in FIGT, for me, it's a safe environment in which you can dream. It's a safe environment in which you can create, in which people are very supportive, really continuing your spirit of generosity, giving away their wisdom and their honest support, and sharing their stories. Which was an amazing experience for me the first time, and I keep coming back to have some more of these. But maybe this is the time to ask you, how do you envision the future? What is the next step for FIGT?
I hope that we're going to take what we've learned from the maybe more traditional expat community and keep expanding as we've started to doing for how this applies to families who are in global transition for all kinds of reasons, including refugees, immigrants, minorities, all these things. There's so much to continue exploring. I love it that we have so many more affiliates. I hope they keep growing, and I love how they are taking this topic now back locally, because everybody from around the world can't come to one conference, but we can have many seeds and many trees growing in different places. So I love that. I love the webinars. I love how the group that you started, the coaches and counseling community is growing so fast, and people who are in professions who need to understand this story for what they're doing can meet here online. I love what the researchers are doing and giving names and numbers to the different things we've thought about, and they're proving it or disproving it, as the case may be, and it keeps growing. I love watching the Safe Passages Across Network, this organization that's begun to try and help schools develop these programs that came out of the people networking from FIGT. I look forward to seeing them become certified. And I just think we've only just begun. That's the mystery and the wonder and the amazement that really there's just so far to go, but we've come and watched all these things happen, so we can believe that the way we keep working together in the way we have and in the new ways that will be ahead can only help us, I trust, help the world understand better what's going on, because it's been an organization maybe that's looked at that before. Each specific discipline has been able to look at it, well, in the whole way that I think FIGT, with its multidisciplinary approach, has been able to kind of bring together some of the disciplines into one conversation.
And I think, as you said, FIGT at the time was just a baby. And right now it feels that it's a bit more mature kind of organization, right, that it keeps developing and listening to the people, still listening to the story with the same intensity and the same feeling of, taking care of the very personal story, but at the same time making it to something bigger that we can share with others, and not just keeping, all these understandings to ourselves. So I'm happy really to celebrate these recognitions that we recently got as an organization, and that you recently got due to your wonderful work. We thank you. And I'm so glad on a personal level that you dared at the time to dream and to initiate this organization that we can all benefit from. And we would like to invite everybody. So Ruth, please invite whoever wants to join FIGT. What should they do?
Well, they go to www.figt.org. And you can sign up there. You can see what's available. You can look for your affiliate near you. You can look for a webinar. You can look at past things. You can look at conferences, and they live streamed a lot of them, so they're on the website now. And join us. Maybe some of you have dreams too that you don't know what to do with, but they're connected to this field. Well, come and find other people who share that dream and can give you their wisdom and their insights and their experience. And we are a big community. It's really global now, and it's an amazing one to be part of. And we do invite you, because we keep expanding our tent, and there's lots of room left for the new people to come to, and for the old to stay.
Yeah, there's always room for more. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for everything you did, and you really deserve to celebrate. Thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody who has made FIGT what it is today, while I stand and cheer. I appreciate all the work so many have done.
The best cheerleader in the world.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.